Hidden within the depths of those ancient caves in a land once teeming with hidden masters, there was a disturbing prophecy whispered through the centuries. It spoke of the moment humans forget the sacred breath, when the inherent power of their own life force would diminish and darkness would begin to cloud their minds and hearts. Keep watching to learn the ultimate forbidden breathing technique to change your life. But before moving on, make sure to hit the subscribe button to help us reach the 100K mark. Gazing across society today, noticing how many have become chest breathers, mouth breathers, and shallow breathers, it seems that the prophecy was all too accurate. Thanks. The frantic pace of modern life has made us forget something that the ancient yogis knew intimately. These dedicated explorers of inner worlds carried profound secrets that were safeguarded in mystery schools for countless generations, secrets so powerful that some feared they could remake or unravel entire civilizations if used improperly. They spoke of an art, a science, that can only be found by turning inwards. They called it Swara Yoga, the sacred study of the flow of breath. Through specific practices like Nadi Shodhana, they recognized how the breath traveling through the subtle energetic channels known as the Ida and Pingala Nadis could unlock extraordinary potential hidden within every single human being. The yogic sages documented these teachings in ancient texts such as the Shiva Svarodaya, describing in clear detail how each nostril correlates with the opposite hemisphere of the brain. What they taught was later validated in laboratory settings with modern science, centuries after the yogis had already mapped it out in their internal laboratories of meditation and devoted sadhana. They elaborated on how the left and right hemispheres of the brain each govern different aspects of our being: analytical thought, creativity, intuition, logic, discipline, spontaneity. Through these methods, great masters, sometimes referred to as siddhas, demonstrated what appeared to be unimaginable feats. They showed what looked like the ability to become invisible, live in states of extreme cold or heat, remain submerged without breathing for unheard-of durations, and retain a radiant youthfulness far beyond typical human lifespan. They described accessing what they called Amrita, the nectar of immortality, and they insisted that everything hinged upon one elusive secret: maintaining a perfect balance of breath between the two nostrils. In modern times, research has begun catching up to this ancient wisdom. Scientists have started to notice that within the nasal cavity lies what the yogis label Brahmadwara, sometimes alluded to as the gateway to higher consciousness. Astonishingly, 93% of people today exhibit a dysfunctional breathing pattern that deprives them of the infinite potential that resides within them. If the breath remains out of balance, our entire system becomes tangled. We stay locked in old patterns, anxieties, and repetitive stories. When there is no proper integration of the hemispheres, we lose our intuitive clarity and creative spark, and we find ourselves drifting through life without harnessing the vast reservoir of energy that naturally wants to flow through us. There is a specific practice that was passed from teacher to student, carefully transmitted through lineages that cherish the idea that the breath is the cord connecting our physical existence with our spiritual possibility. In many modern contexts, this has been referred to as an alternate nostril breathing method, or a refined technique for balancing the autonomic nervous system. The method is straightforward yet powerful, involving a simple alternation of inhaling and exhaling through the right and left nostrils. But it carries layers of nuance that unfold over consistent practice, and the deeper one goes, the greater the revelations that emerge. Years ago, the practice was shared by a mentor who had spent time in austere Himalayan retreats. This mentor insisted that nothing significant in life can be sustained or truly transformed if the breath remains unbalanced. Modern individuals, with demands placed on them from multiple fronts, rarely pay attention to this subtle life force. Many people also fall victim to the allure of quick fixes, caffeinated beverages, stimulants, artificial ways of boosting their energy, or numbing stress with substances that create short-lived illusions. The ancients realized something crucial about external substances. Each time you ingest something artificially to alter your internal state, you sign an energetic IOU. A debt is created within the physiology. It might manifest as a post-high crash, hormonal imbalance, reduced motivation, or even deeper mental and emotional instability. Over time, this can accumulate and produce an erratic mind and an erratic life. Yet if you learn to cultivate these states through conscious breathing, you become the alchemist of your own body and mind, igniting the natural pharmacy that lives within every cell. That is precisely what the ancient sages were hinting at when they spoke of the importance of preserving natural breathing rhythms and patterns. They saw the breath not merely as a physiological function, but as a potent key that could open the doors to wisdom, intuition, and states of expansive consciousness. Many people walk around holding tension in their chests, favoring shallow breath, as if they were trying to hold on to their worries. When a person becomes angry, the breath changes. When someone experiences fear, the breath becomes tight and constricted. When there is anxiety, the breath becomes rapid and irregular. It is impossible to separate breath from the state of mind. By deliberately and systematically regulating breath, we also regulate the mind. When we reduce the speed of our breath, letting every inhalation and exhalation become calm and measured, we create a resonant change in the nervous system. The body returns to a natural baseline of coherence. The entire mind-body complex transforms because it has been guided back to an internal equilibrium that is too often lost. Sometimes, to understand how the breath impacts a person's life, consider how many times a day we breathe without notice. Typically, it happens automatically, controlled by the autonomic system. But it is in that very autonomic system where tension, trauma, and reactivity can reside. If you influence the breath consciously, you gain a kind of direct access to hidden parts of your unconscious mind, allowing you to unravel old patterns with surprising ease. This is the deeper essence behind those mystical references in the yogic scriptures. The breath is a tortoise bridging land and water, or bridging the physical and spiritual realms. The more skillfully you learn to harness it, the more your life becomes the art form it was intended to be, rather than a reactionary attempt at surviving one stress after another. While there are many established ways to train the breath, including advanced forms of pranayama that yogis have carefully guarded, there is one practice that is straightforward enough for almost anyone to begin. Some call it alternate nostril breathing, but in Sanskrit texts, it is referred to with names that evoke purification of the subtle channels. When done properly, this simple exercise can help unify the left and right hemispheres of the brain, effectively tuning the mind so that conscious desire and unconscious programming no longer clash and sabotage each other. Instead, they begin to cooperate as a single, harmonious orchestra. This means that everything you truly want at your core, everything that inspires you, that resonates in your heart, can gradually receive support from your unconscious mind rather than opposition and self-sabotage. After consistent practice, you may observe remarkable changes in daily life. Creativity might flow more easily. You may awaken each morning with clarity and purpose, rather than a sense of dread or frustration. You could notice that tasks that once felt burdensome now become manageable, even enjoyable. Relationships may shift because you are no longer unconsciously reacting to triggers with the same intensity as before. The breath acts like a cleansing river, washing away blockages within your energy system and consequently dissolving those hidden knots in your psyche. Some practitioners even report expansions in intuition, receiving flashes of insight or epiphanies about the direction of their lives. This is not surprising, given that quieting the internal chatter and harmonizing brain hemispheres often lead to heightened awareness and a capacity to sense more subtle levels of reality. The original knowledge that mouth breathing could be harmful to overall health was preserved in old traditions. Even in recent times, books and scientific studies have illuminated how nasal breathing encourages proper oxygen exchange, helps maintain nitric oxide production, and can help balance the autonomic nervous system. Mouth breathing can lead to structural changes in the face and jaw, potentially causing long-term issues with posture, sleep, or even emotional regulation. The correlation is so strong that many experts advise parents to watch for mouth-breathing habits in their children from a very young age. Children who breathe through the mouth might show narrower facial structures or might be at risk for more frequent illnesses. By teaching correct nasal breathing early on, parents can spare their children many complications later in life. When a person learns to breathe slowly and steadily, an interesting phenomenon unfolds. Rather than taking a lot of quick gulps of air, you become far more efficient with oxygen. The carbon dioxide levels in your bloodstream also become balanced. While society often believes carbon dioxide is a purely waste gas, it plays a nuanced role in transporting oxygen to tissues and ensuring that the exchange occurs at the ideal rate. Slow, calm breathing also lowers the heart rate, which then allows the mind to settle down. This is no small matter. Lowering the heart rate and controlling the breath are primary steps in entering deeper meditative states, which is another reason yogis prioritize controlling the breath in all their practices. In ancient scriptures, references abound to the significance of balancing the breath between the two nostrils. Practitioners discovered that one nostril is typically more open than the other, and this could change throughout the day. Often, in certain intervals, the left nostril breath may dominate, which correlates with activity in the right brain, the domain of creativity, intuition, emotion. At other times, the right nostril may dominate, feeding the left brain, which is more analytical, linear, and structured. Traditional yogic understanding teaches that to reach higher states of awareness or to fully manifest heartfelt intentions in physical reality, one must achieve a balance, a moment when both channels are open and the breath is centered. That is when the mysterious Sushumna Nadi, the central channel in the subtle body, can become activated, granting access to deeper meditative experiences and heightened states of consciousness. In modern life, people often notice that they become too head-centric, locked into cycles of stress and overthinking, or they live in chaos, leaning heavily on emotion without discipline. Restoring balance through deliberate breathwork can allow them to transcend these extremes. The best part is that you do not have to be a master yogi retreating in a Himalayan cave to learn or benefit from these methods. Even 5 minutes a day of mindful focus practice has the potential to change one's entire outlook day after day, allowing incremental improvements that compound over time. One recommended approach involves a practice of alternate nostril breathing for 5 minutes in the morning. Finding a quiet corner or simply sitting on a chair, the practitioner endeavors to keep the spine erect yet relaxed. The left hand rests gently on the lap, palm facing upward like a small bowl, as though receiving something precious from the cosmos. The right hand rises near the nose, using the thumb and the pinky finger to alternately close off each nostril in a gentle, precise manner. The pattern is simple, though one must be attentive to each breath so that it remains smooth and controlled. It often starts with an exhalation through the left nostril, which marks the beginning of a cycle. Then the person inhales through that same left nostril, gently closes it with the pinky, releases the thumb off the right nostril, and exhales through the right. Next, they inhale through the right nostril, close it with the thumb, and exhale through the left. That's one complete cycle. Over 5 minutes, this might be repeated around 30 or more times, depending on the length and depth of each inhalation and exhalation. The key lies in ensuring that each breath is steady and gentle, as though a feather placed just under the nostrils would not move, or a candle flame set there would not flicker. When the designated time is up, it is essential to finish the cycle properly, ending after an exhalation on the left side rather than stopping at a random point. This care in completion helps preserve the synchronizing effect that is the primary aim of the practice. After this brief session, many people report a profound stillness, as if the mental static has finally subsided and there is a renewed sense of clarity in seeing the day ahead. With repeated practice, you might notice that the breath no longer feels restricted. One nostril that was previously clogged may open up over time, supporting a more balanced energy flow. This daily routine can become a crucial anchor, fostering a deeper and more trusting relationship with oneself. Those who adopt this practice for weeks or months discover subtle improvements in all areas of life. If someone has been prone to procrastination, they might find themselves becoming more decisive. If they have wrestled with chaotic emotional episodes, they might find a new sense of calm and a shortened recovery time whenever life triggers them. Old patterns of sabotage, self-doubt, or impulsive choices might gradually lose their grip. In other words, the unconscious mind begins to resonate with the conscious mind's intentions. That is when manifestation becomes smoother and more intuitive. Whether one's goals revolve around relationships, career achievements, or spiritual aspirations, having the mind, body, and spirit in harmony sets the stage for genuine progress. In the yogic worldview, there is a firm belief that the breath truly is the connecting link between the gross and subtle bodies. Therefore, purifying the channels of breath is seen as an essential prerequisite to deeper meditation, focus, and even advanced esoteric practices. Some texts claim that through mastery of breath, it is possible to awaken dormant energies, often depicted symbolically as serpents coiled at the base of the spine. Although such concepts can sound exotic or unbelievable to the modern mind, they are simply metaphors for profound processes in the nervous system and mind. By systematically refining and balancing breath, an individual may gain access to states of clarity and transcendence that profoundly alter their perspective. An intriguing fact to explore is how modern neuroscience has come to understand that nasal breathing through one nostril influences specific neural networks, and how switching the breath to the other nostril shifts the patterns of brain activity. It is not always recognized in mainstream medical circles that a rhythmic alternation can unify both hemispheres, yet the effects can be gleaned through functional MRI scans in research labs. On a day-to-day level, you might notice a difference in your capacity to solve problems or to engage in creative tasks at specific times, aligning with which nostril is more open. If the left nostril is predominantly open, you may find it easier to write poetry, create music, or design art. If the right nostril is open, you might have a burst of energy to handle detailed work, accounting, or tasks requiring logic and structure. However, to live a more complete life, There should be times when the two function in near-perfect symmetry, allowing you to effortlessly switch between big-picture creative thinking and the discipline required for execution. Sometimes, life events can disrupt this flow. A stressful job or a difficult relationship can cause chronic tensions, reflected in the breath. Without conscious awareness of breath, a person might spiral into confusion, poor health, and a repeated cycle of stress. This is one of the reasons daily breath practice is recommended, to return oneself to the baseline of calm, centered awareness. By doing so, not only do you mitigate damage from stressful circumstances, but you might also find solutions appear more readily. Anxiety often thrives in environments where breathing is rushed or shallow. When the breath is slowed, the parasympathetic nervous system engages, often described as the rest and digest mode, enabling deeper healing on every level. When you first experiment with these techniques, especially alternate nostril breathing, you might encounter frustrations if one nostril is perpetually blocked. Sometimes it could be due to sinus issues, inflammation, or merely a habitual pattern of mouth breathing. If so, it helps to remain patient. A few minutes of warm-up, such as gently massaging the nose or practicing mild inhalations through one nostril at a time, can gradually open the channels. Being relaxed in posture, with the spine upright, also plays a vital role in enabling the breath to flow. Proper hydration and moderate exercise can assist in loosening the tissues around the nasal passages. Over time, the body naturally adapts, and you may find both nostrils opening more readily during your sessions. Another vital component is the mindset. Before each practice, forming a clear intention can have profound results. You might choose to focus on something you want to create or transform in your life, whether it is improved health, mental calm, better relationships, or success in a project you are working on. When you integrate this intention into your breathing practice, you effectively tune your entire being to that frequency. The conscious mind holds the intention, while the breath helps embed it in the unconscious mind through the repetitive, balanced pattern that bypasses mental chatter. After finishing, you may feel a surge of confidence or an intuitive direction on how to proceed. This is not magic in the sense of snapping fingers and making something appear, but it is magic in the sense of harnessing subtle energies in ways that align your inner world with the outer world. Some practitioners get excited when they realize that certain advanced forms of breath control can induce states of intermittent hypoxia in the body. This means limiting oxygen intake for specific intervals, which triggers unique biochemical cascades, stimulating the production of substances that can bring about altered states of consciousness. The effect is sometimes reminiscent of mild psychedelic experiences. It is as though the body begins to secrete natural chemicals, DMT, endocannabinoids, and other hormone-like compounds that help dissolve the usual boundaries of the mind. That is part of why some yogis, masters, and certain spiritual teachers have described feeling constantly high on life, having tapped an internal supply of euphoria and bliss that does not harm them. They have refined their breathing to the point that they can generate the needed chemicals from within at will, never relying on external substances that might lead to negative side effects. In these advanced methods, breath is always the starting point. But for those who are new or just seeking a daily balancing practice, the simple alternate nostril method described earlier is already a significant step toward harnessing these possibilities. One fascinating outcome of sustaining daily practice is noticing how the mind becomes more plastic, more open to reshaping old habits. If you have struggled with negative self-talk, intrusive doubts, or recurring fears, you may discover that they arise less frequently. And when they do surface, you can watch them more calmly, allowing them to pass, rather than hooking onto them. This mental space is crucial for emotional well-being. It is the difference between being fully identified with anxiety and just witnessing it as a passing cloud in the sky of consciousness. Over weeks, months, and years, this new vantage point can literally reshape the storyline of your life, opening doors you previously believed were locked. The concept of manifestation is deeply intertwined with the breath in yogic culture, because manifestation is about bringing the subtle desires of the mind into concrete reality. Without balanced breath, the mind stays in conflict, one aspect wanting something, another aspect resisting. This is the inner sabotage that plagues many individuals. They consciously say, "I want to improve my health," yet they find themselves ignoring their own best interests, skipping the gym, or indulging in harmful behaviors. They might declare, "I want a stable, loving relationship," but repeatedly choose or attract partners who reinforce old traumas. Yogic wisdom asserts that these contradictions persist because the channels of energy are not flowing in harmony. When balance is restored, the unconscious mind begins to align with the conscious intention. Then manifestation becomes less of a struggle and more of a natural unfolding. Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Through daily breath alignment, you are bridging that very gap between conscious and unconscious. Instead of letting fate be a series of repetitive patterns, you consciously shape your path, gaining more authority over your life's trajectory. The prophecy that humans would forget this sacred breath might have partially come true, but perhaps the existence of that very prophecy is also the impetus for modern seekers to reclaim what was once lost. The darkness that threatens to cloud collective minds can be dispelled, not by external force, but by reawakening the luminous potential within each individual. Consistency is the missing piece for many who attempt breath practices. Enthusiasm may surge in the beginning, but old habits quickly resurface, and people find themselves skipping days or returning to shallow breathing without mindfulness. That is why some traditions encourage a 40-day challenge or a specific period of dedicated practice. They believe it takes a certain span of time to rewire neural pathways, recondition the unconscious mind, and truly embody a new state of being. If you commit wholeheartedly to this approach, you might keep a simple daily log or journal, noting your emotional state each morning and each evening, and paying attention to changes in your energy, mood, or habits. Over time, this provides valuable insight and motivation. Reading back through your notes can reveal how far you have come, especially when you realize that old destructive patterns no longer define you. While some might think 5 minutes is too brief to have an impact, the results can be surprising. If done properly, 5 minutes is enough to realign your breath, center your mind, and instill calm. As you become more comfortable, you can extend the practice to 10 or 15 minutes. But even if you keep it to 5, done with sincerity and consistency, the benefits will accumulate. The breath, after all, is not separate from any part of your life. The balance you cultivate in that short session tends to follow you through the day, weaving itself into your interactions, choices, and reflexes. You may react differently to unexpected stress, pausing first, breathing a moment before speaking, or acting. In that pause, you gain a powerful freedom to choose a response rather than being driven by autopilot. This subtle shift is at the heart of every personal and spiritual development path. It may also be important to mention that some individuals experience an immediate upswing in mood or a rush of euphoria when they finish even a single session of alternate nostril breathing. Others might find it more subtle at first, noticing small improvements in mental clarity or energy levels. Everyone's physiology and emotional makeup are unique, so comparing your experience to someone else's is neither helpful nor necessary. The important thing is to trust that you are guiding your body and mind toward a more harmonious state, and to continue day after day with patience and curiosity. If intense emotions surface during practice, that can be a sign the breath is stirring up old energies locked in the body. Sometimes tears flow, or a wave of anger or sadness emerges seemingly out of nowhere. Treat these occurrences as part of the cleansing process. Rather than being alarmed, remain present, keep breathing gently, and let these energies release. The breath can be a powerful excavator of subconscious material, bringing it into conscious awareness so that it can be resolved. In a way, each session might be described as a mini-therapy for your nervous system, ensuring that stored tension or unprocessed feelings do not remain buried. Further down the path, you might become more sensitive to the subtle cues that let you know which nostril is more active at any given time. You may notice that in the early mornings, your left nostril might be predominant, giving you a vivid, dreamlike creativity. By midday, your right nostril might take over, sharpening your focus for business or tasks requiring logical thinking. In the late evening, you might witness another shift, returning to the dominance of the left. Rather than forcing anything, the ultimate goal is to develop a refined awareness of these natural ebbs and flows so you can cooperate with them. If you do creative work, you might time it to when the left nostril is open. If you must plan or organize, you might do it when the right nostril leads. Yet, the practice of alternate nostril breathing, especially done in the morning, can balance both, offering you a state of readiness for whichever tasks lie ahead. Over weeks, you may find that carrying this balance into your day leads to surprising synchronicities. You might find yourself meeting just the right person to assist with a goal, or stumbling upon a resource at precisely the right moment. Coincidences that align with your intentions can increase. It is as if, by harmonizing your internal channels, you harmonize your relationship with the environment around you, inviting the support of unseen but ever-present forces. This might sound mystical, and indeed it can feel that way, but many practitioners come to regard it as a natural law. External reality tends to reflect the internal state. Balanced breath fosters a balanced world. There is also a strong correlation between balanced breathing and healthier relationships. When the mind is calm and the emotions are steady, you can truly listen to others without the usual filters or defenses. You can speak more from your heart, reducing misunderstandings. Patterns of conflict that were once entrenched can begin to unravel as both parties sense a shift in energy. Even if the other person has no idea you are practicing breath exercises, they respond to your calmer presence. This can lead to profound reconciliation or the building of new bridges where before there were only walls. Some people who adopt this practice report a new sense of spiritual connection, even if they did not consider themselves particularly spiritual beforehand. This might manifest as a feeling of oneness, gratitude for life, or a deeper connection to nature. Even the simplest experiences, like watching a sunrise or hearing birds sing, can become moments of awe because your senses are sharper and more receptive. The chatter of the mind, which previously obscured life's richness, recedes, and the entire tapestry of existence appears with greater vividness. If an individual is using this technique to enhance meditation or other mindfulness practices, They might notice that once the breath is balanced, slipping into a meditative state happens more quickly. The mind simply has fewer distractions. The sense of restlessness that usually plagues beginners tends to diminish, and one can sustain deeper, quieter states of consciousness. In these states, insights about personal issues or creative endeavors often arise spontaneously, as though they are downloaded from a higher intelligence within. It is important to be clear that none of this suggests the practice is meant to replace medical treatments, psychological therapy, or other forms of healing that a person may need. Instead, it is complementary. The balanced breath can aid and optimize whatever healing or transformation process you are undergoing. If you are in therapy, you might find that breathwork accelerates your progress. If you have a physical training regimen, you might discover that mindful nasal breathing improves endurance, focus, and recovery. If you are an artist or performer, the clarity of mind and emotional steadiness can bring your work to a new level. Breath is a universal language. Just as it was taught in ancient Egypt, in Hermetic schools, in the Celtic Druid traditions, in Tibetan monasteries, or among Native American healers, the basic truth is that the breath ties the individual to the universal. Whether you call it prana, chi, ki, mana, or something else, the concept remains the same. Life energy flows through the vessel of the body and mind in rhythmic tides. If those tides become turbulent, the individual experiences chaos, disease, and disharmony. If the tides flow smoothly and with conscious awareness, the experience shifts to harmony, vitality, and alignment with greater forces. In that sense, all of these cultural and spiritual traditions were pointing to the same fundamental secret that the ancient yogis codified with remarkable precision. It is worth contemplating what the world would look like if more people reclaimed this sacred knowledge. If children learned proper nasal breathing at an early age, if schools integrated mindful breath practices, if workplaces allowed short breaks for employees to rebalance their breath, we might see an overall reduction in collective stress, improved mental health, and an environment more conducive to innovation and compassion. The difficulties we face in society are often magnified by widespread disconnection from our own bodies and from one another. When we become reacquainted with our breath, that is one of the most direct ways to reconnect with ourselves and consequently with everyone else. If you decide to undertake a consistent 40-day journey of morning alternate nostril breathing, consider reflecting each day in a simple log, even if it is just a sentence or two, describing how you feel physically, emotionally, and mentally. Check if you felt lighter, if you handled stress more gracefully, or if you noticed positive shifts in personal or professional arenas. Share the highlights with those you trust, or keep it private, but notice the patterns over time. By day 10, you might see that your stamina for the practice has improved, or that a new sense of peace arises. By day 20, deeper emotional or energetic layers might be released. By day 30, new opportunities or inspirations may emerge. By day 40, you will likely see the process differently than when you began, because you will have internalized the principle that you are your own healer, teacher, and co-creator of your life. You may also notice the way your body physically shifts across this timeline, from posture improvements to changes in digestion, or even the way your skin looks. The calm state of mind induced by balanced breathing often translates into lower cortisol levels, which can benefit almost every system in the body. Over many years, people have recounted how such a simple act as breathing properly was the missing piece they never realized they needed. They might have spent years chasing complicated solutions, therapies, or externally searching for answers, never realizing that the simplest and most direct tool was literally right under their nose the entire time. That is the sublime beauty of these ancient teachings. They remind us that we are never truly disconnected from the solutions we seek. The real question is whether we are willing to slow down, create a little space in our day, and commit to discovering the treasure that breath holds. When we do, it can feel like the gates of consciousness swing open, revealing new landscapes of wonder, possibility, and joy. Even beyond the mental and physical benefits, there is a sense of returning to something primordial, an ancient memory of how humans once lived in alignment with themselves, each other, and the rhythms of nature. In many ways, the disturbing prophecy whispered in those old caves becomes a clarion call for our current age. It was never meant to say all hope is lost, but rather that when we forget the breath, we lose the power to shape our destiny. The darkness that clouds our collective mind is simply an absence of inner light, an absence of that subtle flame that the breath continually nourishes. By remembering the sacred breath, we turn that light back on, illuminating not only our individual paths, but also potentially guiding others who cross them. The prophecy, then, is a reminder that it is within our power to reverse the tide, no matter how dire things may appear. The real shift happens in seconds, not because of some miracle outside of us, but because balancing the breath can instantly trigger a new cascade of physiological and energetic responses in the body. In one moment, you might be anxious and scattered. In the next, you can be anchored and calm. Over time, these moments add up, building a steady foundation of peace that remains with you even in challenging circumstances. This is the gift that ancient yogis and mystics have guarded for millennia, a gift that remains available to anyone with the curiosity and dedication to turn their attention inward and discover the power of breath. Every day becomes an opportunity to practice, an opportunity to remember, to keep the mouth closed, to draw air gently through the nostrils, to savor each breath with awareness, rather than rushing through it. The more you do this, the more you realize you have been carrying around the key to your own liberation from the very start. No external authority or secret organization has withheld it. You do not need to spend years searching in distant lands, although many do travel on pilgrimages to deepen their devotion. Ultimately, the breath is always with you, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to guide you. Reflecting upon what might unfold once this crucial piece is reintegrated into daily life, you can imagine the ripple effect. You might see it in relationships, in creativity, in resilience, in the capacity to gracefully handle life's ups and downs. You might find your voice in situations where you once felt helpless. You might find empathy for those with whom you previously clashed. You might find the spark of an idea that shapes your future career. Or perhaps you simply savor each moment more richly, no longer feeling life is something to endure, but something to celebrate. These changes can seem small at first, but they accumulate in profound ways. Even in times of global turbulence, you remain rooted, stable, and capable of responding with both compassion and practicality. This is not escapism, it is empowerment. The breath practice does not isolate you from reality. It aligns you with a deeper reality, one that includes but is not limited to the daily swirl of events. When the breath is balanced, you can see your own thoughts and emotions with clarity, so you are less likely to be hijacked by them. You can also see the world's dramas unfolding without absorbing them as personal catastrophes. You can participate with a level head and an open heart, an invaluable combination in a society that so often struggles to integrate head and heart. As you continue the practice, you might be inspired to explore additional dimensions of breathwork, including breath retention, specific ratios of inhalation to exhalation, bandhas, energetic locks, or meditative visualizations that accompany breath. All these avenues are part of a vast field of knowledge that can be explored for a lifetime. Some practitioners will find that the initial balancing technique is enough to bring about all the transformation they need. Others will dive deeper, discovering greater complexities and hidden layers in the breath. Ultimately, the path is individual, guided by your intuition and readiness. The essence remains the same. The breath is the thread that weaves physical life with spiritual life, conscious mind with unconscious mind, thought with emotion, and intention with manifestation. Just as the ancient yogis discovered through direct experience, so too can you discover by simply paying attention to your breath each day. If you truly commit to it, you might one day look back in wonder at how something so subtle brought about such a significant metamorphosis. This technique, infused with the timeless knowledge passed through centuries, underscores the potential waiting to be tapped in each inhale and exhale. Whatever your life story or context, consider making that promise to yourself, to reclaim the power of breathing with awareness, to set aside a few minutes each morning, and to see where it leads. You might think of it as returning home to a place you never truly left, a place where clarity, vitality, and wisdom merge into one continuous flow. Each breath, each moment of balance, is a chance to remember that you are, in fact, much more than a fleeting figure in a busy world. You are a vessel of limitless possibility, and the breath is your sacred sail, ready to guide you toward shores of insight and harmony beyond your wildest imaginings.